The Pythagorean Theorem. The sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs of a right triangle, this is a leg and this is a leg, equals the square of the length of the hypotenuse. The longest side is the hypotenuse. It's the side opposite of your right angle. If the legs have lengths A and B and the hypotenuse has length C, then those words are translated to that formula. And hopefully you've seen that, the Pythagorean Theorem. Now in this question, it says use the Pythagorean Theorem to solve the following. In a 25-inch TV set, the length of the screen's diagonal is 25 inches. If the screen's height is 15 inches, what is the width? Okay. That's my TV. The diagonal is 25 inches. The height is 15 inches. So they want to know what that is. This is my right angle. So if I use a squared plus b squared equals c squared, the a I could let be x. The b, since that's my other leg, is 15. So it's squared, and the c is 25 squared. So if I square 15, I believe it gives me 225. And if I square 25, it gives me 625. So I'm solving for x. I've got an x squared, so I'm going to move that to the other side. Now normally when we take the square root here, we do a plus or minus, but the minus doesn't make any sense. This is a distance, so I'm going to look at the positive version. So x will equal square root of 400, which would be 20 inches. So the width of the TV is 20 inches. Now that was the Pythagorean Theorem, but from it comes the distance formula. So I've got myself a picture here. I've got a point here and a point here. And if I want to find the distance, I use the Pythagorean Theorem. So there's my hypotenuse. So if I use my a squared plus b squared equals c squared, so I've got d squared. My a is one of the legs, so we'll use this. And this is the distance from x sub 2 up here to x sub 1. You subtract them. So I'd have x sub 2 minus x sub 1, that quantity squared, plus also the distance between my y1 and y2. And if I take square root of both sides, I end up with this formula. But notice there is no plus or minus. Distance is positive, so it's always the positive version. So we're going to use the distance formula to find the distance between the following pairs. And you need to know these formulas, both the Pythagorean Theorem and your distance formula. So my distance is equal to big square root. Take my x values, subtract them, and square. Add it to the difference of my y's. Got to clean up inside first. That's a negative 3 plus 2 quantity squared plus 4 plus 7 quantity squared. So notice it's starting to get smaller. That would be a negative 1 squared plus 11 squared. That would be 1 plus 121, square root of 122. Normally you round that. If I do square root of 122, square root 122, it's about 11.05 would be the distance between those. Now, once you pause me and you try number or the B part here. You always subtract your x values, and if I've got a point where both of them are positive, I'll always put it at the rear, because then I don't have to do parentheses like I did earlier. So that's a -10 squared plus, it's a -5 squared. So that's 100 plus 25. So that would be square root of 125. We can simplify that. Let's go simplify the radical. Haven't done that in a while. Let's see. That's an exact answer, but an approximation, let's go find out. And also find out if I simplified it right. So square root of 125, 5 square root of 5. Okay, so 11.18 would be the distance between those 2 points. So now that finishes up this particular section. You've got a lot of problems to do, so practice these. Thank you.